Eruvin Daf Zayin. Today's amazing email comes to us from an 80-year-old who writes, "This email is an appreciation to what you have done for me. I've never found it easy to learn Gemara since in my youth there were no Jewish schools or yeshivas in South Africa. My knowledge is from Cheder, which I attend 3 times per week. Over the years, I've improved my learning, always trying harder and harder. Baruch Hashem, I have 2 sons who went to yeshiva and learn every day, etc., etc. May Hashem bless you to be able to spread Torah to many Talmidim throughout the world. Amen." You might be asking why I'm telling you this. Well, it's to give all those geschmack to learn no matter how hard it is. By the way, I'm now over 80. P.S. I do not want to mention my name and admire. Thank you. You should continue going. Michael El Chayil. We're continuing the sugya of a person who creates an inferior fence on Shabbos so he should be allowed to carry within the fence. How much is he allowed? A whole discussion in yesterday's sugya. Rav gives us a riddle. He says sometimes you have 3 people that are not permitted to carry in 5 sa. Sometimes you have 3 people that are permitted to carry in 7 sa. What's the case? So the Gemara explains perhaps it's talking about 3 people who do not require, they don't have enough things that they need more than 3 sa. So therefore, if they go to 5, they went 2 over the limit. Now you could, whatever you need, you could go up to 2 more, because you're not allowed to have 2 empty sa. So therefore, they went 2 over, they cannot carry in any of the 5. But if they require 6, for instance, they need 6 sa to survive, they're allowed to go all the way up to 8. Therefore, if they did 7, which is a round out number, they are permitted to carry in those 7. Here's the case. 2 neighbors made an Erev Chatzeros. Their way to get from one house to the other is through a door. That door over Shabbos was blocked off. Do we go by the time Shabbos comes in and they were allowed to carry from house to house, or do we look at it right now? Rav Huna says we go by Shabbos, when Shabbos goes in. The same thing applies in our case. If you have 3 people that required a certain amount of sa and one of them dies over Shabbos, Rav Huna would hold, you go by when Shabbos comes in, they were permitted to carry in all that area. We don't care if somebody dies or even if somebody comes by. Right now, you cannot add any more to what you have. On the other hand, Rabbi Yitzchak says, we look at what we have right now. Right now, we have a door that's closed off and you cannot go from house to house. Therefore, these people, even though they made an Erev Chatzeros, they cannot go from house to house. We look at right now. Right now, you only have 2 people, let's say, in the surrounded fence. Even though when Shabbos came in, there was 3, we have to look at what we have right now. So therefore, even Lakula, if 1 or more people showed up, you could give them more sa, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, even on Shabbos. Well, there's a similar case, but not really. You have a house that 2 walls fell down, or a mavoi where the lechi came off, and we have a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara says it's not similar, because where the mechitza or the lechi disappears is very different to when the residents disappear. You could say it could go both ways, but they're not the same thing. Says the Mishnah, if you have soldiers, these soldiers have 4 kulos. First of all, they could gather wood, and the Gemara is going to explain all these things. They don't have to wash their hands for hamaitzi. They could eat the mai, that's fruit that you bought from an amaretz, and they don't require an eruv. And the Gemara explains all of them. We're talking about in a war of rishus, in other words, not the war of Amalek, etc., just a typical war, even Yerushas Haaretz, they're allowed to go and gather wood. Now, this is not similar to the Gemara to one of the 10 conditions that Yeshua made when he gave Chalukas Haaretz, when they divided the land, Eretz Yisrael, and he said people could take each other's bushes. We're not talking about bushes. We're talking about regular wood, and it's attached, and it's dry, even not attached, even chopped wood and dry. They're allowed to camp anywhere they feel like it, and wherever they die in war, that's where they are buried, even though they have family that could bury them elsewhere. What's considered a meis mitzvah where you bury right here and then? It's somebody that no one answers to the call to bury them. Says the Gemara that if a meis mitzvah is lying across the road, blocking up the road, so if the 2 sides of the road are equal in terms of what type of area it is, you just move them to the side and bury them either to the right of the road or to the left. However, if one side, let's say, is plowed and the other side is not plowed, you bury them in the not plowed side. If one side is plowed and the other side is sown with seeds, you put them in the plowed side. In other words, wherever you cause less damage. If the body is not laying across the road, then you bury him right there and then. The soldiers are patur only from washing their hands mayim rishonim for bread, but not mayim achrayim, which the Gemara says is a chayva. We're concerned that you might touch salt from zdaim, and it can create blindness. There's a very small amount in a kur Nevertheless, we're very concerned. If a person is not eating, he's just measuring salt, certainly has to wash his hands for my machroinim. This machlokes between Beis Shammai and Silla. Beis Shammai say we don't feed the soldiers or poor people from demai, and Beis Hillel say we do. What kind of erev are we talking about? The Beis Rabbani says, based on the shita of Rebbe Kiva, that we're not talking about erev tchumim, that you're not allowed to walk 2,000 amas past the border, because according to them, that's a da'iraisa and there's malchus. We're talking about just erev chatzeros. The pasuk says al yetze. There's a chiyuv malchus. This pasuk is not a lav shenitin lazaros Mrs. Bezin. In other words, the pasuk is not talking about a warning that you will get the death penalty. It's not talking about Hoitzah Shabbos. It's talking about walking out of the tchum. And with that, we finish the perek Mavoi. The following perek is called Oisin Pasi Libirois. As we discussed, if there's a well in the middle of the Rosh Hashanah and we want to be able to draw water and Shabbos for the animals, we create 4 L-shaped brackets. They are 1 amma by 1 amma. It could be any thickness, and it must be 10 tfachim tall. So these L-shaped brackets, in fact, 4 of them, each one is a diyumad, it's 2, so it looks like we have 8 walls. Rameir says we need to add a flat one in between each L-shaped bracket for a total of 12. Between each L-shaped bracket, each diyumad, according to Rameir, enough to put 2 groups of 3 cows each, which adds up, since each cow is 1 2/3 amma, this adds up to exactly 10 amma. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 2 groups of 4 cows, and that adds up to 13 amma and a third. They are tied, and they're facing in different directions. In other words, they are soichakais, they are wider tfachim. You're permitted to make the pasibiris smaller, as long as you make sure that a cow could go in most of his body and his head, because we're concerned that if not, you might carry outside of the diyumdim. You're allowed to make the diyumdim as large as you want, says the Tanna Kama, as long as you add the necessary amount of pasim, so there's no more than 10 amas or 13.3 amas. Rabbi Yehuda says you can only enlarge it up to 2 sa, which is 50 by 100 amma. According to Chachamim, you're permitted to enlarge it as large as you want, because drawing water is considered resident use, and therefore it's mutter to go to any size you want. Have a wonderful day.